Now, when we think of the Queen and the incredible reign, for many of us it's a sense of duty and dignity with which she'll be remembered. But alongside that, it was her sense of style and fashion diplomacy which set her apart from crowds over a reign. They could see her, she was visible, and that will be part of everyone's memory. Joining us now is Royal Editor at Hello Magazine, Emily Nash. Emily, we're going to get to the Queen, but we're told there might be breaking news from Prince Harry. Do we have any sense of what that news might be?
We've just had a statement from Prince Harry. It's been published on the Archwell website. He's paying tribute to his grandmother, talking about her being a guiding compass to so many in her commitment and service to duty, and then also making a very personal address to her granny. While this final parting brings us great sadness, I'm forever grateful for all of our first meetings, from my earliest childhood memories with you to meeting you for the first time as my Commander-in-Chief, to the first moment you met my darling wife and hugged your beloved great-grandchildren. I cherish these times shared with you and the many other special moments in between. And it goes on to say, we too smile knowing that both you and Grandpa are reunited now and both together in peace. So a very emotional statement.
And no confirmation yet that he will, as speculated in The Sun today, walk beside his brother behind the Queen's coffin here in London.
Look, there's a lot of speculation around it, obviously. My understanding is that lots of members of the royal family are due to walk in that procession on Wednesday. I think there would be a serious problem if they weren't both present. And I think that they will do what they can to put on a united front, no matter what's going on behind the scenes at the moment, in honour of their grandmother.
All right, talk to me about the Queen's sense of style. More than just fashionable outfits, there was a very deliberate use of colour, and we'll get to the diplomacy point, but let's talk about particularly the hats and the colour.
That's right. Well, look, the Queen was not a very tall woman, as we know, and she always used to say, I have to be seen to be believed. And in fact, her daughter-in-law, the Countess of Wessex, said she deliberately chose bright colours, block colours, because she knew that people in the crowds might be sort of 10 or 15 people deep. They needed to be able to say they'd seen the Queen. If they turned out to see her, even if they just caught sight of the very top of a bright red or bright yellow hat, they will remember that moment for the rest of their lives. So she knew how important her appearance was in terms of her connection to people.
I'll underscore your point about her being very petite. I remember being at Parliament House. We had a white tie event, which is unusual in Australia. And two things happened. One, my husband was standing next to me, and when she came through in a gown and she had diamonds everywhere, he said, now I get why women love diamonds, because they just scintillated in the room. But she was so petite, so petite.
That's right, and I mean, a giant on the world stage and yet quite a diminutive figure in terms of her stature. But she had such incredible presence, you know. Everyone remembers where they were the moment they may have seen or shook hands with the Queen. And she understood how important it was for her style to reflect the diplomacy she was undertaking, you know. So
let's talk about that, because the diplomacy was, I wore a brooch today in her honour. Brooches for her sent a message.
Absolutely, and whether it was to send a message of diplomacy to whoever she was visiting, or in fact maybe to shore up her own sense of self. You know, she relied on wearing brooches given to her by Prince Philip over the years, also brooches that were given to her by her parents in particular she cherished, and she would continue to wear them over the years. And I think this was, again, the sense of the continuity of monarchy.
Talk to me about Angela Kelly. Interesting character, Queen's dresser for many years. Surprisingly, she's been given permission to write books. I've read both of her books. She has had a very privileged place in the Queen's very personal aspect of her role, hasn't she?
Absolutely, and they were quite an unlikely duo. You know, Angela, the daughter of a Liverpool dock worker, came from very humble beginnings and yet became arguably one of the Queen's closest confidants, especially in her later years. She was with her every step of the journey, you know, so they had this fantastic relationship, and it was really based in humour. They had a lot of fun together, as Angela reveals in her books.
So when people come in the next few days, they will obviously farewell their Queen. Is there any regard that her wardrobe will have travelling exhibition or will be on display anywhere in the palaces?
Look, I think it's too early to say. As we know, the Royal Collection Trust, who manage exhibitions of the Queen's clothing, are all in royal mourning as we speak. But there have been fantastic exhibitions over the years, and I would imagine that there will be more to come in the future.
And what about the coronation? Because that has, with all the robes and the heraldry around that, its own sort of set of rules.
The Queen's coronation gown by Norman Hartnell was an absolute masterpiece of diplomacy, as we were saying again. It was embroidered with flowers and emblems from all the Commonwealth realms, including the wattle from Australia. And this was really about her showing her dedication to the Commonwealth and to the wider world. You know, it wasn't just a moment for her, this was a great moment for the wider world as she was crowned Queen.
We saw that too with Meghan Markle's veil, wedding veil, if I remember rightly. Very simple gown, but embroidered with all of the emblems of the Commonwealth.
That's right, and you know, again, a fantastic example of the Queen being a real, not trendsetter, but being so influential and having been such a master of diplomatic dressing. You know, she's been emulated by most of the royal women over the years, and I'm sure that influence will continue.
So how will life change for Charles and Camilla as they prepare for the coronation, as they prepare for events? Well, pretty simple for a bloke, I suppose, but will Camilla's dress need to change?
Camilla has her own sense of style. It's fairly simple. She likes to be comfortable. She has a couple of well-loved designers who produce most of her outfits, including Bruce Oldfield and a lady called Fiona Clare, among others. I think obviously she is going to be much more formal in some respects than she has been, but I don't see her changing too much.
Emily Nash, thank you.
It's a pleasure.